All right, this is Math 209, Week 5. We are evaluating composite functions, and I'm going to explain what that means in a second. So, what a composite function is, you got these two functions. You've got f of x, which is equal to x squared in this case, and you've got g of x, which is equal to x plus 3. And what it means, a composite function means you take an input, in this case, negative 3, and when it's written like this, it means take the negative 3, stick it inside this equation, get your answer, and then take that answer and stick it into G. All right? So that's what that means. So if we're going to say, okay, let's do G of f of negative 3. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to put negative 3 inside f of x, which is x squared. So that becomes negative 3. Whoa, boy, that's ugly writing there. Let's get that going here. So that's negative 3 squared, which is equal to 9. So the f of negative 3 equals 9. Now we're going to take the 9 and insert it into the g of x, which is x plus 3. So we're going to take the 9 and put it in there, so it becomes 9 plus 3, which is 12. So g of f of negative 3, the answer is 12, because that's what we got. So first you take the negative 3, you put it in f, then you get your answer and put it in G. So it's basically you're working it backwards, it says, like written backwards. Take the negative 3, put it in F, take your answer, put it in G. So let's do F of G of 4. So that means take your 4, put it in G, get your answer, put it in F. All right? So take your 4, put it in G. So G is x plus 3, so that becomes 4 plus 3, which is 7. So now that we have 7, we're going to put 7 in f. So that means we're going to put f of x, which is x squared. So that becomes 7 squared, which is 49. So this answer is 49. And now we're going to do the same thing, g of f of x. So what does that mean? G of f of x. So what does that mean? That means, well, let's start by writing f of x is x squared, and g of x is x plus 3. All right, so what this means is you're going to take your x, put it in f, and you get the formula itself. You don't have to do any math. All right, so take your x, put it in f, you get your formula itself. Now it says take that value and put it in G. So it's basically saying now take this value and put it inside G. And so G of x becomes x squared plus 3, because we're taking the x and replacing it with the x squared. So you get x squared plus 3. So this is equal to x squared plus 3, and that is your answer. And then the last one is f of g. F of g of x. All right, so what is that? Well, first off, you have to remember that g of x is x plus 3, and that f of x is x squared. So this means start with your x, put it in g. Well, that gives you your formula itself. There is no math to do. But now it says take that answer and stick it into f. So that becomes, oops, I don't need that. So f of x becomes x plus 3 squared, because you're taking this answer right here and you're sticking it in for x. So that's x plus 3 squared. Now, x plus 3 squared, you're going to have to do the box. X plus 3, x plus 3, x squared, 3x, 3x, 9, and so you end up with x squared plus 6x plus 9. I went pretty fast there, so you might have to pause the video and figure out how the heck I got that. But basically I used the box method, I added my middle terms, and that's how I got my answer. So this slide is the exact same, only the problems are going to get a little bit more complicated. So let's do that. So first I'm going to write, let's see, f of x is equal to 4x. That's that one. And then we have the g of x. G of x is equal to x squared minus 1. So we've got these two functions. And when we are going to do g of f of negative 4. So this says take the negative 4, put it in f, get your answer, put it in g. All right, so we're going to start with f of x, and we need to put in negative 4. So that becomes 4 times negative 4, which is negative 16. And now we're going to take that negative 16 and we're going to stick it into the g of x. So that becomes negative 16 squared minus 1. So negative 16 squared is 256, minus 1 is 255. So that's our answer, equals 255. And that is our part A. All right, so part B says we're going to do f of g of 3. So this means take your 3, stick it in g, get your answer, stick it in f. So that means we need these two terms. But now we need the g first, because we're going to take the 3, stick it in g. So that gives us 3 squared minus 1, which is 9 minus 1, which is 8. And then we're going to take that 8 and we're going to stick it into f. So that gives us 4 times 8, which is 32. So that's our answer, 32. And that is our answer there. So now the next one is g of f of x. G of f of x. So once again, we know we need our two terms, our two functions. And so I'm going to move that one and move that one. And we know we're going to take the x, put it in f, and then we're going to get that answer and we're going to stick it in g. All right, so when you take the x, stick it in f, you get the function itself. And then we're going to take that answer and stick it into g, because that's what it says. Take the answer and stick it into g. So you end up with 4x squared minus 1, which is 16x squared minus 1, and you are done. So that answer is 16x squared minus 1. And then, lastly, we have one last one. And we know we're going to need a couple of functions here. And there. And so our function is that we're being asked to do is f of g of x. All right, so f of g of x. So f of g of x. So that says take your x, stick it in f. So really we need these the other way around. Take your x, put it in g, and you get the function itself. And then it says, now take that and stick it into f. So you're going to take this part right here and stick it into f. So you're going to get 4 times x squared minus 1, which is 4x squared minus 4. And that is your answer for that one. That's just a ton of simple math. Nothing is all that hard. It's just a ton of calculations for you to do to get your answer. All right, more of the same. Let's see if I can squeeze it all in like this. Okay, so this says take your x, stick it in g, so you get your function itself. and then you're going to take your g and stick it in f. So if we know that f is x plus 2, and we're going to take our g and stick it in, so that means we're going to replace this x with the x squared plus x minus 5, and then we still have the plus 2 sitting there. So you see that we replace the x with the value of g, the function of g. And so that gives us the formula x squared plus x minus 3. And that's the answer for A. For B, we're going to take 3, stick it in G. All right, so take G, and actually I'm going to undo that. Okay, so take 3, stick it in G. So that gives us 3 squared plus 3 minus 5. That's 9 plus 3 minus 5, which is 12, minus 5, which is 7. All right, so when we take 3, stick it in G, we get 7. Now we're supposed to take 7 and put it into F, which gives us 7 plus 2, which is 9. So now we're going to do the next one. Take take X, stick it in F. That's going to give you the f of x, which is x plus 3. And then it says, now take that value and stick it into G. Now we know that G is x squared plus x minus 5, but wherever we see the x, we're going to replace it with x plus 2. So this becomes x plus 2 squared plus x plus 2 minus 5. Well, you're going to have to trust me on this. This first part right here becomes x squared plus 4x plus 4. And then we have plus x plus 2 minus 5. And simplifying, so we get x squared plus 5x plus 1. Because 4 plus 2 is 6, minus 5 is 1. And that's your answer. And then the last one. This means take 3, put it in F. So when you take 3 and put it in F, you get 5. Now we're going to take that 5 and put it in G. And remember, G is x squared plus x minus 5. So that's 5 squared plus 5 minus 5. So that's 25 plus 5 minus 5, which is 25. So our answer is 25. All right, so what we're going to do, our first one is g of f of negative 3. So this means take negative 3, stick it in f, get your answer, and then take that answer and stick it in g. So that means we need each of these functions, and we want to use the f first and then the g, because we're going to take the negative 3, put it in f, and so that gives us negative 1/3. Now we're going to take that answer and put it inside, so you get 4 minus 7 times negative 1/3, so that becomes 4 plus 7/3. And so that equals, let's see, 12/3. So that's equal to 19/3. So this answer is 19/3. And so the next one is f of g of 4. All right. So what we need is these two. Oops, let me get out. We need this term, and we need this term, and we see, because, whoa, we're going to take 4, stick it in G. So that means we need this function first, followed by that function. All right, so now, this says, take 4, stick it in G. So you get 4 minus 7 times 4, so that's 4 minus 28, so that's negative 24. And now we're going to take that negative 24 and we're going to stick it in F. So you get 1 over negative 24, so that's negative 1/24. So that's equal to negative 1/24th, and you are done. That one's pretty straightforward. That's not too bad. All right, so the next one is g of f of x. So g of f of x. All right, so once again, we need our two functions. All right, and we know that we're going to take x, put it in f, and then take that and put it in g. So we want the f first and then the g. And so this says take your x, put it in f. Well, you're going to get the function itself. And then it says take that function and stick it in g. So you're going to get 4 minus 7 times 1 over x. 1 over x. So you get 4 minus 7x. 7 over x. And so I'm not sure how they want us to write it. So probably this is going to be 4x over x minus 7 over x. So they probably want it as 4x minus 7 over x. That's probably how they want you to write the answer right there. And so, and I think we've got one more to go. Oh my goodness, we do. So that's going to be f of g of x. All right, so that's going to be f of g of x. And so we need to get our functions. So we're going to go up here, grab my functions, and let's see. Oops, and I need to bring one down and bring one down. All right, so now this says we're going to take the x, stick it in f. So we want the f1 first and then the g. So when you take the x, stick it in g, you get the function itself. And then we're going to take that and stick it over here. So this becomes 1 over 4 minus 7x, and you're done. There is no math to do. You're done. And so that's the answer, 1 over 4 minus 7x. All right, this is more of the same. We've got a couple of functions here, and we're going to do f of g of x. And so the idea is, this means we're going to take x, put it into g, which gives us g, and now we're going to take g of x and insert it into f of x. And when we do that, so we're going to take this and insert it into the x, so we end up with 5 times 5x squared minus 4x plus 2. And so we have to use the distributive property here. And when we do that, we end up with, let's see, 25x squared minus 20x plus 10. And that is our answer right there. So moving down here, this says now we're going to take negative 2, we're going to put it in g, and then we're going to get that answer and put it in f. All right, so now the idea is, if we're going to do that, it's basically the same thing as taking the previous answer and just using that answer and sticking negative 2 into it. It would give us the same answer, but I'll show you the kind of the simple long way. It's the one thing that you need to think about and repeat it over and over, which is take the negative 2, put it in g. So when we put the negative 2 and put it in g, we're going to get 5 times negative 2 squared minus 4 times negative 2 plus 2. And when we do that, let's see, that's going to be 4 times 5 is 100. 4 times 5 is 20. This becomes plus 8 plus 2, so that equals 30. All right, now we're going to take 30 and you insert it into f, and you get 5 times 30, which is 150. And so there's your answer right there. Now here, this says take x, put it into f, which gives you f. And now we're going to take f and put it into g. So wherever we see an x, we're going to replace it with 5x. So this becomes 5 times 5x squared minus 4 times 5x plus 2. So I'm going to kind of speed things along a little bit. This becomes 25x squared, and 25 times 5 is 125. So that's 125x squared. This becomes minus 20x plus 2, and there is our answer. So again, we took x, put it into f, that gave us f, and then you take that f of x, which is 5x, and then you stick it into g. All right, and so that ends up giving us this. Now this is the recipe for this. So a simpler way of doing this next problem, instead of taking -3, putting it in, -3, putting it in f, getting your answer, and then getting that answer and putting it into g, a simpler way is to simply take that -3 and stick it into this equation right here. So that ends up giving us 125x squared minus 20x plus 2. Now we're going to take that 3 and we're just going to stick it in there. So that becomes 125 times -3 squared minus 20 times -3 plus 2. And then that gives us, let's see, 9. So that's going to be 9 times 125. And I have no idea what 9 times 125 is. So I'm just going to grab a calculator, and I'm going to do 125 times 9. Whoa, 125 times 9, and that gives me 1,125. And then this becomes plus 60 plus 2. So when I add plus 60 plus 2, that gives me 1,187. And now I'm done. Okay, so this is cool because this table means they've kind of done the math for us. So there's fewer calculations for us to do, and that might make some of you happy. So the idea is we've got your f of x table and you've got your g of x table. All right, and so when we look at, let's see, f of g of 0. All right, so that means take 0, put it into g. Now, when we take 0 and put it into g, we get -2. And now it says we're going to take that -2 and put it into f. So we're going to take the -2, and here it is, -2. We're going to put it into f, and what do we get? We get 2. And there's our answer. So they've done all the math for us. It's like a lookup table. So let's take the next one, which is g of f of -1. All right, so what does that mean? We're going to take -1 and put it into f. All right, so we're going to take -1. When we put it into f, we get -1. All right, now keep that in your head. Now we're going to take -1 and put it into g. So we're going to take -1, and when we put it into g, we get 1. So that is our final answer. Basically, what you guys are doing here is I want you to think of like, I don't know, like a coin being dropped into a machine, and then that coin does something to the machine, and then the machine puts out something, which goes into another machine, and then eventually, so that's basically what's happening. It's something goes into a machine, which comes out and goes into another machine, and then it comes out, and whatever you get is like a soda, or you get a candy bar or something. So that's basically what these machines are. These functions are like machines. Takes your input, puts it in, does something, and spits out a product that goes into a new machine and continues to refine it. And that's basically what's going on here. So more practice using these functions as a, kind of like a machine. So you've got f of 6. Ooh, this is cool. It means we're not actually going to use this table at all, because they're saying take 6, put it into f. So when we take 6 and put it into f, what do we get? Well, we get 4, all right? So this right here equals 4. And then it says, now take that 4 and put it into F again. So when we look up here, we're going to take the 4 and put it into F again. We get 7 as our answer. And there you go. So this is the exact same thing as the tables, only instead of looking at a table, we're going to look at a graph to get the same kind of information. So we're going to start with f of g of 1, and then we're going to do, let's see, g of f of 0 right here, and then lastly we're going to do g of g of 0. All right, so there we go. So let's kind of move these around. All right, so let's see. How are we going to do this? Okay, so let's start with this first one. So this says, take 1, put it into g. What do you get? All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to look at our thing, our graph here. It says, take 1 and put it into g. So here's the g line, right? So we're going to take the 1 along the x-axis, and here's 1, and what's the g value? Oh, the g value is right here. It's 2. So when I go back, when I take 1 and put it into g, I get 2. So now I'm saying, oh, okay, so now what's f of 2? Because this part right here was equal to 2. So now what is f of 2? So, all right, we're going to go back to the machine, and we're going to look for 2. So here's 2, but now we're going to look for the value of f, and it's right there at -1. So our value is -1. Our answer is -1. So right here, oops, there, the answer is -1. So let's do this again. So this says take 0, put it in F, get your answer, put it in G. All right, so let's see if I can arrange this so I can see everything at the same time. There we go. So take 0, which happens to be at the origin, put it in F. What do we get? Well, when we take 0 and put it into F, when we take 0 and put it in F, we get -1. All right, and then it says take that -1 and put it into G. So we're going to look for -1 and we're going to put it into G, and when we look downward, we see, oh, it's at -2. The answer is -2. So that answer is -2. And lastly, take 0, put it in G, get your answer, and put it back into G again. So let's see, take 0, put it in G, gives us 0. And then we're going to take that 0 and put it into G again, and that gives us 0 again. So the answer is 0. And that wraps up this video.